When you start healing, one of the first things you notice is how messed up normal life is. With all the self reflection that you're doing, you can see just how much stuff you've got going on that isn't necessarily very healthy. And because you can see it in yourself, you're now much more able to see it in the outside world too. And the outside world doesn't care. You are trying to heal and grow and become a better person, but the outside world couldn't give less of a damn. Normal life must go on. You've got to work and pay your bills and fulfill your commitments to your friends and family. It's really difficult to find the time and the emotional energy to fit your healing work into all of that. And it's really frustrating to be so conscious of all the things that are wrong in society and normal life and not be able to do basically anything about it. When you discover healing work, you stop being a normal person. It is highly unusual in our current society to do any sort of healing work, to care about healing your childhood trauma or becoming self actualized. If you're doing this work, I'm willing to bet that you probably never really felt normal for most of your life. You've never sort of felt like you fit in at parties or vibed with the office gossip after work. You've always felt slightly different. You're just more sensitive than other people. And you have this urge to improve your life that no one else around you really seems to have. You want to heal, you want to grow, you want to improve your life and start living a life full of love and abundance. A life that is authentic to you. You might even define yourself as not normal and take a lot of pride in refusing to engage in the social normities that really keep our culture running. And yet, you do have to participate in those games to some degree to work and earn money and to live. And that can feel really frustrating. I've been really struggling with this recently. For the first time in my entire life, I have really carved out the space and the time to process my thoughts and my emotions on a real, proper, deep level. And it's working. I'm much more aware of my dysfunctional patterns, and I still make a lot of mistakes and things I go, I shouldn't have done that. But I'm noticing when I'm making those errors, and then I'm able to take corrective action by apologizing or analyzing it and deciding for myself that I'm not going to do it again. But the one thing that makes this really difficult for me to do is the fact that I have to do it all on my own, and the rest of my life isn't really set up to support me doing this work. Because most normal people don't do this work, and so I can't share it with them. I see the shallowness of the everyday conversations that I have, and part of me wants to just reach out and build more of a connection, but I just know that I won't be met at the place that I'm coming from. And sometimes I just get really sick of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm walking around with all of this heightened self awareness, and now I'm kind of suppressing the parts of me that yearn for a deeper connection or that yearn for more authentic expression, but are just not quite ready to really deal with the real world yet. And so I have to push them down and just carry on and pretend to be a normal person. And it's pretty tiring. And so I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I've come to a few conclusions that I've sort of gently started to implement in my life that have helped me. And so I wanted to share them here for anyone else feeling in a similar situation to what I've been going through. So here's some advice if you're also on a healing journey, but you're really struggling with all the mundane, superficial necessities of normal life. Let me start with the first thing. Stop wanting reality to be different. Stop looking for normal people doing normal everyday activities to validate your experience. Stop expecting it to be easy to try and find time to carve out your emotional processing work. The amount of misery and anxiety that you'll create for yourself if you fight with reality is immense. You can't fight reality, you only lose every time. Normal people and normal life is always going to be what it's going to be. That is not your property. Instead, focus on what you can control. And here, I've discovered that there's really two ways of thinking that really do help when I think about them in this way. And the first one is acceptance, and the second one is appropriateness. Acceptance means embracing reality as it is. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up and condemning yourself to living a crappy life. Acceptance means letting go of the things that you never had a right to control nor could you control in the first place. Fighting with reality is stupid. You always lose. Acceptance is the wisdom to recognize this and then let go of the things that you can't control. You've got to let go of trying to make reality be exactly the way that you want it to be all the time. And now I know that this can sound a little bit esoteric, but it's not actually that complicated because practicing acceptance is doing the healing work. Doing your best to live a normal life in our normal, slightly messed up world is the healing work. Like with most things, the majority of healing work isn't those big breakthrough moments where you cry like a 2-year-old or let out decades of repressed anger at your mother. It's showing up every day and finding fulfillment in the normal, mundane things that you've just got to do. That struggle is the process. That is the work. It is reality. And yes, more often than not, it's boring, it's mundane, it's repetitive. And it's really difficult and not supportive of you with your big load of feelings that you want to try and emotionally process and all of your sensitivity and fear around doing that. It can be really anxiety inducing and soul crushing, don't get me wrong. But that's how reality is sometimes. And by showing up every day a little more healed, a little more emotionally aware, a little more authentic, brave, and courageous, you will start to feel better and your life will start to change. The second point is appropriateness. I feel like appropriateness is something in the healing space that's extremely important, but that often gets overlooked, especially when people are coming new into this space and they've got a lot of emotions that they want to process, but they're not entirely sure how to do that. And when it comes to appropriateness, it's really just viewing it by stepping back and taking a look at what actually is going on. Is normal life messed up? Yes. Is it difficult to find the time to do this work? Yes. Does that often, at least for me, make me feel angry? Yes, yes, it does. But what if I told you that a large part of the repressed superficiality of normal life is a feature, not a bug? This is because it's simply not appropriate to have such deep conversations in most circumstances of life. When you're at work, you're there to make money for the company so the company can pay you so that you can pay your bills. When you're at a party, people are there to relax and socialize. They're not there to talk about their childhood trauma. When we do this work, especially when we're coming into it in the early stages, we can get quite possessed with this feeling of, I must heal, and everyone around me and everything around me also is going to heal. And then all you can talk about and everything you do becomes around healing work and childhood trauma and attachment styles and all sorts of different therapeutic modalities. But this is just not appropriate in the majority of situations that we find ourselves in. In fact, this overly driven need to see mirroring and validation from the external world is actually a pattern from childhood that is being played out that you haven't quite processed yet. You're looking externally for mirroring and validation to help you build your sense of self. Now, as an infant, that's what's required. Infants need their holding environment, their caregivers, to reflect back to them who they are so that they can establish a sense of self. But as adults, especially adults trying to form a sense of self and be healthy, we need to give that validation and mirroring predominantly to ourselves. Of course, we still need other people to validate us and support us and emotionally help us. But as adults, it is up to us to find the right time, the right place, the right space, and if necessary, the right person, a safe person, to actually get a lot of that validation and healing for ourselves. And if we don't do this, then a lot of our messy, unprocessed feelings will leak out in the conversations that we have with people. And it's simply just not the appropriate time, place, space, or person to do that. A healthy adult finds an appropriate outlet for this. Therapy, journaling, group therapy, joining some kind of like-minded community. There are lots of options out there. Ultimately, it's a sign of truly growing up when you recognize that the world out there doesn't care and it won't change just because of you. It is up to you to make the changes that you want within yourself and to give yourself the validation and the mirroring that you need and the space that you need appropriately to heal and process all of your emotions. It's actually a sign of being quite grown up to recognize that emotional processing work is important, but the superficiality of everyday normal life is actually very important and simply requires us to suppress down a lot of what we're feeling so that we can carry on with our survival and existing in society. And that's okay, because once we've done this enough, we learn how much of our authentic self we can bring, and when we can put that aside a little bit and play the game, just because sometimes you've got to play the game. Life is hard, and choosing to do healing work doesn't make it any easier. But if we knew an easier way to make life better, we'd be doing that instead. So here we are. Your healing work is your property alone. It might be, and probably should be, the most important thing in your entire life. But the rest of the world doesn't care. Your work, your bills, your other worldly commitments, they don't care. And nor should they. It's up to you to find appropriate outlets to let out that energy and to process those feelings. And to accept that in most situations in your life, it's simply not right for you to be sharing that information. And so you might have to go about a little bit suppressed sometimes until the full authentic version of you is really truly ready to face the world in an appropriate way. 'Cause this doesn't last forever. Eventually your wounds will heal and your authentic self will emerge and it will be strong. And this is only found by continuing to suffer through the mundane normalcy of normal life and suffering through the ups and the downs. Don't stop living just to heal. Learning how to live is the healing work. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Leave a comment down below for how you cope with living in the sort of messed up normal world that we live in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.